Everything about that morning was in a hurry. The sky hadn't even properly changed color when Chisholm was already outside, dragging her 5-year-old daughter down the stairs of their second-floor apartment in Barriga. She clutched her handbag in one hand and her daughter's wrist in the other. "Adaora, if you make us miss this bus, I will flog you," she hissed. The child grumbled, dragging her sandals as if they were made of lead. Her small face was barely washed. Her hair, styled into rough puffs, hadn't even been moisturized. And yet Chisholm didn't care. Today wasn't about Adaora. Today was about her. Her phone buzzed again. Reminder, interview, 9 a.m., Lekki Phase 1. She was already sweating. She had barely slept. She had spent the night pressing her navy blue skirt suit, practicing her answers, picturing herself walking confidently into the interview panel and charming them into giving her the biggest opportunity of her life. A managerial role, company benefits. It wasn't just a job. It was a lifeline. They got to the main road and found a long commercial bus parked and almost full. Chisholm clutched Adaora's hand and rushed forward. VI, Lekki Phase 1, CMS, last 2, the conductor shouted. "Wait, we're coming!" Chisholm yelled as she climbed in, pulling Adaora behind her. The inside of the bus smelled of morning breath, fabric softener, and tired ambition. Office workers in crisp shirts and women in smart gowns sat quietly, some already dozing, others listening to radio with earphones. There were only 2 seats left. In the middle row, directly behind a heavily pregnant woman dressed in a fitted green maternity gown and low-heeled shoes. The woman sat with quiet poise, her brown leather bag on her lap, her scarf neatly draped over her shoulder. Her eyes were soft, calm. Her belly pushed gently against the backrest as she breathed slowly, one hand resting protectively over it. Chisholm didn't notice her. She was too busy adjusting her skirt and settling into the seat. Adaora sat beside her, and from that moment, the drama began. At first, it was subtle. Adaora crossed her legs on the chair, then she uncrossed them. Then she bent and kicked lightly at the seat in front of her. Tap, then tap, tap, then thump. The pregnant woman shifted slightly. Tap, tap, tap. She turned her head just a little and smiled. "Hi, sweetheart," she said softly. "Please stop kicking my chair, okay?" The little girl looked at her blankly, then kicked again. "Will you behave?" Chisholm muttered lazily without looking up. The woman didn't say anything more. She turned back around, inhaled deeply, and exhaled slowly. The bus continued crawling through Obalenda traffic. The heat began to rise. Sweat beaded on the driver's neck. The sun was just beginning to show its face. Tap, tap, kick. Adaora was humming loudly now. Then she began drumming her fingers on the metal rail of the chair in front of her. Then she started shaking the chair back and forth with her tiny feet. The pregnant woman endured it. She pressed her hand tighter to her stomach. The baby was kicking too. Then finally, she turned again, still calm, still polite. "Madam, please, I've been patient. Kindly caution your daughter." Chisholm raised her head sharply. Her face was already irritated. Auntie, she's just a small child, nah." "I understand," the woman replied. "But she's disturbing me, please." "Then endure it now," Chisholm snapped. "Abi, you never carried Belle before? Don't you know children behave like this?" The woman's mouth opened slightly in surprise. "I'm just asking you to—" "To what?" Chisholm interrupted. "To flog her for you. Please, don't bring frustration near me this early morning. Everybody inside this bus is minding their business. Do the same." The air grew still. A man 2 rows ahead turned slightly but said nothing. A woman at the back coughed and stared out the window. Adaora continued kicking the chair. Now she was bouncing on the seat. Then she leaned over and tried to touch the woman's scarf. The pregnant woman closed her eyes again and prayed silently. "Just get me to my destination, God. Please." But traffic held the bus down. Minute after minute, no movement, no breeze. Then Adaora started whining. "I'm hot!" Chisholm handed her the half-full water bottle from her handbag and said, "Drink small and keep quiet." The child drank, and then, for no reason at all, she smiled and unscrewed the bottle completely. The moment was so sudden, nobody saw it coming. Adaora stood on the seat, stretched her arm over the woman's shoulder, and poured. A stream of cold bottled water splashed onto the pregnant woman's head, soaking her scarf, her neckline, and her collar. "Jesus Christ!" The woman gasped out loud and twisted around in horror. Everyone in the bus turned sharply. "Adaora!" Chisholm shouted. "What is wrong with you?" But just as quickly, her expression changed. She saw the pregnant woman trying to dry herself with tissue from her handbag and gave a loud hiss. "Please don't behave like it's acid. It's just water. She's a child." The woman's lips trembled. She was soaked. Her scarf clung to her skin. Her bra strap peeked from the wet fabric. And still, she kept her voice calm. "Why are you talking like this?" she asked softly. "Instead of correcting your daughter, you're insulting me." "You want me to kneel down and beg you?" Chisholm fired back. "Is it because I entered the same bus with you? You should be thankful I didn't allow her pour worse." The bus fell into uncomfortable silence. The conductor looked into the mirror but said nothing. A few people shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The pregnant woman turned around slowly, pulled her bag tighter across her lap, and blinked several times to hold back tears. Then Chisholm muttered under her breath, "See her face like someone who's never had a child before. No wonder she does not know how children behaves. When God finally gives you one, you'll understand." The words landed like a slap, but the woman didn't respond. She just faced front, hands on her belly, breathing quietly, waiting, praying, for the bus to move. The bus continued crawling through the congested expressway near Farlormo. Sweat had begun to rise under people's collars, and the air had grown thicker with silent tension. Everyone in the bus had seen what happened, the splashing, the insults, the woman's soaked neckline. But no one said anything anymore. It was as though the weight of it had numbed them all. The pregnant woman sat still, her scarf clinging to her shoulders as it dried slowly. Her palm rested on her belly, and every so often she whispered to it, not words of fear, but gentle comfort. Then, at the next major stop, she quietly pressed the bell. The conductor slid the door open. No one said a word. With grace, the pregnant woman stood up, adjusted her gown, and made her way out. The driver didn't even wait for the door to close before moving again. And that was it. She was gone. No goodbye. No last look. Just quiet exit. Chisholm turned to Adaora and said, "See how she left like a wet goat? Nonsense. Ordinary water and she wanted to faint." Adaora said nothing. The spark in her eyes had dimmed. She just stared at her mother. 10 minutes later, they stopped at the final bus point. Chisholm grabbed her handbag and dragged Adaora off. She hailed a ride immediately. "Madam, this place fine-o," the Bolt driver said as they entered the serene estate where Blue Rock Technologies was located. Chisholm didn't respond. Her eyes were glued to the glass walls of the buildings ahead. She had never stepped into an office that looked this expensive. It screamed class, success, power. She straightened her blouse and whispered to Adaora, "You see this place? This is where your mummy will start working. Big office, a sea everywhere, private driver." The little girl said nothing. She was just hugging her iPad tightly. "Don't come here and embarrass me, oh, I'm warning you," Chisholm added. The driver stopped. She paid quickly and stepped down. She walked confidently to the front desk. "Good morning," she greeted with a dazzling smile. The receptionist smiled back. "Good morning, Ma. How may I help you?" "My name is Chisholm Nwankwo. I was invited for the interview for the acting project manager position." All right, Ma, kindly sign here. Please take a seat in the waiting area. As she signed, the receptionist glanced at Adaora. Oh, is she with you? Chisholm leaned in and said in a lowered tone, Yes, please. I know it's not ideal, but I had no one to leave her with this morning. I begged my neighbor to help, but she had to rush out too. I didn't want to miss this opportunity, so I brought her along. The receptionist nodded gently. It's okay, Ma. Just make sure she stays seated quietly. Thank you so much, Chisholm said sweetly. She took Adaora by the hand and walked into the glass-paneled waiting lounge. She froze. There she was, sitting in a corner, calm and dignified, dressed in dry clothes and wearing a soft smile, the pregnant woman from the bus. Chisholm's mouth hung open slightly. Her heel even stumbled on the tile for a split second. She stared, blinking, processing. But the woman didn't look at her. She was focused on something on her phone. Chisholm straightened up immediately. Her shock flipped into irritation. What is she doing here? She muttered under her breath. She walked past her, slowly, on purpose, letting her heels echo. Then she turned suddenly and faced her. So you two are here for the interview? The woman finally looked up, calm, her expression unreadable. She said nothing. Chisholm chuckled. Wow, she said with mock admiration. You didn't tell me you were job hunting too. No wonder your attitude was smelling this morning. You've been jobless for too long. Still, no word from the woman. Look, Chisholm continued proudly. You see this company? I'm not just here for any small position. I'm here for project manager acting role. That's top level in case you didn't know. The woman remained silent. She smiled faintly. Not the smile of sarcasm, not of defeat, just peace. Chisholm mistook it for fear. She leaned forward and whispered, Don't worry. Once I get this job, if I see you enter here again, I'll personally recommend your CV for rejection. She smirked and turned to walk away. Adaora followed slowly, sitting beside her mother again. Can you believe that useless woman is here too? Chisholm whispered to her daughter. Don't mind her. She came to beg for small post, but I will scatter her plans today. The receptionist returned. Please, we'll soon begin. One of the senior staff members will call you in shortly. Chisholm nodded. No problem. But she couldn't stop glancing at the woman. Useless, wet rag, she muttered. God will shame you today. While they sat waiting, a man in a blue suit stepped into the lounge. Good morning. Kindly note that you'll be interviewed one after the other. The internal team is trying to finalize the interview schedule. Please bear with us. One applicant raised her hand. Sir, please, how many stages is the interview? The man smiled. Just one panel, but there are internal observations as well. We're hiring someone who may be acting head for a few months, possibly longer, depending on performance. Chisholm's ears perked. Acting head, longer term? They didn't say this in the email. Her heart soared. So this isn't just temporary. If I impress them, I could remain in charge permanently. She looked around at the other. Only 5 of them in total. She smiled. This is my chance. This is it. She turned to Adaora and whispered, Behave. Mummy's about to become madam. Adaora nodded faintly. The door behind the glass opened. A staff member leaned in. Can we have Miss Chisom Nwankwo, please? She sprang to her feet, adjusted her jacket, picked her file. As she walked forward, she turned to the pregnant woman and said with a proud smirk, Don't bother waiting too long. After they see me, the rest of you will be wasting your time. Still, the woman said nothing. She just watched her quietly. The receptionist stood and smiled. Please go in through the left wing. They're waiting. Chisholm walked tall, head high, confidence dripping. But deep inside that room, sitting at the far end of the boardroom, calm, composed, and holding a file with her name on it, was the same woman she had mocked, the same woman she had drenched, the same woman she believed had no future. But today, that woman had the power to decide hers. The boardroom was quiet. Not the kind of quiet that made things peaceful, but the kind that made the air thick. The walls were glass, lined with polished mahogany trim. A long dark table stretched from one end to the other, and a single chair sat at the far end. Opposite it, 8 chairs stood behind open files and a jug of lemon-scented water. Chisholm entered with slow, confident steps. Her heels clicked softly against the tiled floor. She smiled politely as she walked in, expecting to meet several executives. A panel. Maybe 2 or 3 stern-faced HR officials in suits. Instead, she saw only one person sitting behind the table, and her heart skipped. There she was, the pregnant woman. Not wet, not weak, not angry, just calm. She was seated at the center of the table, a folder open in front of her, her fingers resting gently on the edges of the CV inside. The same fingers that had been drenched with water earlier that morning. Chisholm's eyes twitched slightly. Her body wanted to freeze. Her pride told it not to. "Don't show fear," her mind whispered. "She's probably just a secretary or part of admin staff." She swallowed hard, quickly masking her tension with a stiff smile. "Good morning," she greeted, placing her file gently on the table and taking a seat opposite her. The woman raised her eyes slowly. Their gazes met. For just a second. Not anger, not warmth. Just a quiet power. "Good morning," the woman replied calmly. "You are Miss Chisholm Nwankwo, correct?" Chisholm cleared her throat. "Yes, ma. That's correct." The woman nodded and looked down at the file again. A long pause. Then she lifted a pen and asked, "Do you have any idea why you were shortlisted for this role?" Chisholm's voice cracked slightly. "Well, I received the email. I assume it's because of my qualifications and background experience in administration and team management." The woman nodded slowly again, then asked, "You applied for the acting project manager position, yes?" "Yes, ma." "And you understand that the person hired will be expected to not just manage people, but to represent this company's values, inside and outside the office?" Chisholm hesitated. "Yes, absolutely." She flipped a page in Chisholm's CV. Chisholm sat straighter. Her hands twitched slightly under the table. There was silence again. The woman glanced at her briefly, then asked, "How do you handle pressure, Miss Chisholm?" Chisholm smiled, this time regaining some of her earlier arrogance. "I thrive under pressure, Ma. I'm a single mother. Every day of my life is pressure." The woman closed the file. Chisholm's smile faded. "Tell me," the woman began, still without raising her voice. "How do you manage people you don't like?" Chisholm blinked. "Sorry? If you were given a team and there was someone in that team who didn't behave the way you expected, someone who maybe annoyed you or didn't do things your way, how would you lead them?" Chisholm took a second too long to respond. "I believe in discipline," she finally said. "Respect is key. If I'm in charge and they don't align, they'll either adjust or leave." The woman's expression didn't change. "I see," she said. She opened a second file, a small evaluation sheet. Chisholm was sweating beneath her jacket, though the air conditioner was on. "Miss Chisholm," the woman said, "can you describe yourself in 3 words?" "Focused, ambitious, determined." The woman raised an eyebrow. "Not kind? Not empathetic?" Chisholm shifted in her seat. "Well, those are important, yes. But in business, I believe execution matters more." The woman wrote something on the sheet. Then she set her pen down. "Have you ever been in a situation," she asked softly, "where your actions outside a professional space affected your opportunities?" Chisholm laughed awkwardly. "No, Ma, never. I'm very careful with my conduct." The room grew still. The woman stood up gently. Her belly shifted beneath her gown, but she moved gracefully. She walked to the water jug, poured herself a glass, and sipped slowly. Then she turned and asked, "What would you do if someone you hurt in public turned out to be the one deciding your future in private?" Chisholm froze. Her throat dried instantly. I don't understand, Ma." The woman didn't repeat herself. She just smiled faintly and said, "I'll be back. Please wait here." And with that, she stepped out of the room, closing the door behind her. Chisholm sat there, hands trembling slightly now. Her mind raced. The words echoed. What would you do if someone you hurt in public turned out to be the one deciding your future? Her chest began to thump. Could it be? No. No, she's just HR. Just one of the panel. She can't be that important, right? 15 minutes passed. The door opened again. But this time, 2 women entered. One was the pregnant woman, still calm. The second was an older lady in a blue suit, with glasses and a pad in hand. "Miss Chisholm," the older woman said, "we're doing a character evaluation across all shortlisted candidates. The first part was general. The second will be based on integrity and behavioral scenarios." Chisholm nodded slowly. "Yes, Ma." The pregnant woman took her seat again, still without acknowledging anything personal. The older woman sat beside her and opened her notes. "We'll begin." Chisholm took a deep breath. The pregnant woman remained silent for a while. Then she spoke. "If someone publicly disrespected you, would you still be able to work with them professionally, Miss Chisholm?" Chisholm swallowed. "I believe professionalism means not mixing personal feelings with work." "Are you sure?" the older woman asked. "Even if that person poured water on you?" The words hit her like thunder. Her chest tightened. She looked up sharply, for the first time truly seeing the woman in front of her, calm, still smiling, but her eyes now carried the truth. Chisholm's face drained of color. She shifted again. Her voice dropped. I didn't mean to." "No need," the woman said gently. "You're still in the interview room. Let's continue." The other lady said, "If a team member spoke to a client the way you did to a stranger in public, what would be your verdict as their supervisor?" Chisholm opened her mouth. Nothing came out. The older woman flipped a sheet and said, "Let's end here for now. You'll be contacted. Please wait at the reception." Chisholm stood slowly. She gathered her file. She looked at the pregnant woman one more time, but this time, not with pride, with quiet panic. And as she walked out of the room, all she could hear were her own thoughts, screaming, "What have I done?" Chisholm sat in the reception like she wasn't the same woman who had walked in 30 minutes earlier, chest high, shoulders bold, mouth sharp. Her file trembled in her hands. Her knees wouldn't stop shaking. She hadn't said a word since she stepped out of the interview room. She couldn't. Her mind was spinning, not just from shame, but confusion. The more she thought about it, the clearer it became. That woman. That pregnant woman. She wasn't a secretary. She wasn't just someone sitting in. She had power, real power. And worst of all, she had seen everything. The way Chisholm disrespected her in public, the way she failed to discipline her daughter, the way she boasted right in her face, not knowing the very job she bragged about was hers to give. Chisholm stole a glance toward the receptionist, who smiled softly at her and said, "Please bear with us, Ma. They'll call you shortly." She nodded, forcing a tight smile. Adaora sat beside her, now subdued, now aware. "Mummy, are you okay?" she whispered. Chisholm didn't answer. Her eyes were glassy. She reached into her bag, pulled out a small handkerchief, and wiped the sweat from her upper lip. Minutes passed, then half an hour, then 45. Still nothing. The other applicants had all been interviewed and had gone. Only Chisholm remained. She felt the weight of their eyes, of fate itself. "I've blown it," she thought. Tears threatened her lashes, and then it hit her, like a slap across the face. This wasn't her daughter's fault. This wasn't the pregnant woman's fault. This was her mouth, her pride, her failure to be decent, even when no one was watching. She reached down and touched Adaora's cheek. I'm sorry, she whispered. Adora blinked. For what, Mummy? Chisholm shook her head. For everything. Just then, the receptionist's phone rang. She picked it up, said a few words, and then looked toward Chisholm. Her voice was soft. Ma, you can go back in. Chisholm's heart dropped. She entered slower this time. No confidence, no pride, just uncertainty. And there she was again, the pregnant woman, sitting calmly, holding a closed file now. There was no panel, no supervisor, just her. Chisholm stood by the door, eyes lowered. The woman gestured to the chair. Sit. She obeyed. There was silence for a long moment. Then, tell me the truth, the woman said softly. If I had shouted at you in that bus, would you have listened? Chisholm swallowed. No, Ma. If I had insulted your child the way you insulted me, would you have fought me? Tears rose to Chisholm's eyes. She nodded. Yes, Ma. Then why did you do it? Chisholm's voice cracked. I don't know. I was stressed. I was late. I thought you were just what? Just a passenger. Just someone I'd never see again. The woman nodded slowly. Exactly. Someone you thought didn't matter. Chisholm broke down. She covered her face and sobbed. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The woman said nothing for a while. Then she pushed the file across the table. Chisholm looked up through her tears. What's this? The woman replied softly. Your offer letter. Chisholm gasped. What? The woman nodded. You got the job. Chisholm's mouth opened wide. But how? After everything Because I'm not here to judge your past, the woman said gently. I'm here to see if you can learn from it, the woman said gently. I'm here to see if you can learn from it. Chisholm was speechless. The woman leaned forward. This company doesn't just hire degrees. We hire people. Real people. People who can change. People who fall but get back up. Then she added, but your position will come with terms. You'll undergo a 3-month probation with weekly character and ethics check-ins. One misstep, and you're out. Chisholm nodded rapidly. Yes, Ma. Yes. Anything. I accept. Thank you. Thank you so much. The woman raised her hand gently. Don't thank me. Thank the version of you that decided to grow. That's the one we're hiring. Chisholm cried openly now. She rose slowly and curtsied deeply, her knees trembling. Thank you, Ma. I won't let you down. The woman nodded, but still, she didn't reveal who she was. Still no mention of being CEO, still no announcement of title. And that was the most powerful part. Because the lesson wasn't in who she was. It was in what she had the power to do, and how she used it. Chisholm walked out of the room slowly, her file clutched tightly to her chest. Adora ran up to her. Mummy, what happened? She knelt down, pulled her daughter into a hug and whispered, God gave me another chance. As they walked out through the glass doors, the sun hit her face differently. Not the glare of shame, but the warmth of grace. The receptionist smiled as they passed. Chisholm stopped and turned back to look at the building. And there, on the inner wall behind the reception, she noticed something she hadn't seen earlier, a glass plaque with a name. Mrs. Amara Okizi, founder and CEO. Her knees buckled, her heart raced. It was her, all along. It was her. She held her daughter tighter, tears spilling again, but this time not from shame, from awe. And that was the moment the story changed. Not because Chisholm got the job, but because for the first time in her life, she understood what grace really looked like. 3 weeks had passed. Chisholm had adjusted into her new life like a chameleon finding its perfect color. She arrived early. She stayed late. She answered emails with military precision and spoke to clients with a smooth confidence that even shocked herself. The office buzzed with whispers. She's different, oh. Isn't that the woman with the child? I thought they wouldn't hire her. She's the acting head now. Chisholm didn't care for their whispers. Not anymore. She had become a symbol, not just of survival, but of unexpected favor. Each morning, she walked into the glass building with Adaora by her side, always neatly dressed for creche at the in-house childcare unit the company offered. Yes, the same company she once entered dripping with arrogance now felt like a home she wanted to protect. Mrs. Amara Okazi, the CEO, had left quietly on a Friday evening with a brief smile and one message. Hold the fort. I'll be back soon. She had left no farewell party, no grand exit, just trust. And a file titled Transition Blueprint 12-Week Delegation Plan with Chisholm's name on every page. But as the woman left for her maternity leave, another person watched from the shadows. Mr. Desmond Ife, head of corporate strategy, a man who had been eyeing Amara's position for 2 years. He smiled as the doors closed behind her. 12 weeks is long enough, he thought, and he had a new plan. It began with kindness. Desmond started small, lunch invites, polite smiles in meetings, helping Chisholm unlock parts of the software system she hadn't mastered. You're sharp, he said one afternoon. You're learning faster than expected. Thank you, sir, or call me Desmond. He started stopping by her office more often, asking questions, praising her work, until one Thursday he entered and closed the door. Let's talk real business, Chisholm raised a brow. Okay? He sat and leaned forward. Chisholm, you know why Amara left you in charge, right? She said I showed potential, that I could be trusted. Desmond smirked. She left because she thought you'd play safe, hold the fort. But let me ask you this. Do you really want to be just a temporary fill-in? Chisholm was quiet. Desmond slid a document across the table. I have a proposal. New investors are coming. People who want change. If you back me up on a few internal realignments, we could restructure this place. And you could be more than acting head. You could be the face of a new era. Chisholm stared at the paper. A budget adjustment plan, a team reshuffle, and a clause that would give Desmond interim executive powers in Amara's absence. She stood. I can't do this. Desmond didn't flinch. I thought you were smart. I am, she snapped, which is why I won't be used. Desmond smiled coldly. You'll regret this. He walked out, leaving the door open. But later that night, something changed. Chisholm sat alone in her office. The power, the influence, the corner office, the title. It was getting to her. She thought of Adaora's future, the bills, the years of rejection, the way she had once begged for help. She stared at Desmond's document, and slowly, she picked up her pen and signed. That Sunday night, the hospital lights glowed against the quiet sky. Mrs. Amara Okazi had just delivered a baby boy, her second child. Her husband sat beside her, smiling as their newborn cooed quietly. But Amara was restless. Something in her spirit didn't sit right. She opened her phone. There were dozens of company emails, but one in particular stood out. An internal restructure notice, signed off by Chisholm. Her eyes narrowed. She scrolled further. A meeting invite. New management strategy proposal. To be chaired by Mr. Desmond Ife. Co-signed by acting head Ms. Chisholm Nwankwo. Her hands trembled slightly. She dialed HR. Don't say anything yet, she said. Just forward me every document Chisholm has signed in the last 5 days. 2 hours later, she sat up slowly in her hospital bed, papers spread in front of her like a courtroom trial. Then, her phone rang. It was Chisholm. She answered, but said nothing. Ma, Chisholm's voice cracked. Amara waited. I need to confess. There was a pause. I made a mistake. Desmond came to me. He showed me plans. At first I refused, but something in me, Something old, something I thought I had buried. Wanted more. Her voice broke. I signed his document. I almost helped him push you out. But I didn't send it forward. I stopped it. I tore the hard copy and sent a report to legal this morning. Amara still said nothing. Chisholm wept now. I wanted to prove I had changed, but the truth is, I almost didn't. I nearly became the woman you first met on that bus. I'm so sorry. Finally, Amara spoke. Why did you stop yourself? Because I saw your son's birth announcement, Chisholm whispered. I saw it online, and I realized you trusted me while you were giving life, and I was planning betrayal. Silence again. Then Amara said, You failed the test, but you passed the lesson. Chisholm sobbed harder. Will I be fired? No, Amara said calmly. You'll be watched, but not fired. Then she added, Because redemption doesn't mean you'll never be tempted. It means that when you are, and you fall, you're strong enough to rise again. And with that, she hung up. Chisholm dropped to the floor of her office, still weeping. But this time, the tears weren't of fear. They were tears of growth, of war won inside, and of a loyalty forged not from perfection, but from humility. The buzz started slowly. Is it true? She's back? Already? But she just gave birth. By 10:08 a.m. on a Monday morning, the news had spread across the office like Harmattan wind across dry leaves. Mrs. Amara Okizi was in the building. No announcement, no welcome party, no press release. Just her. She walked into the glass building dressed in a cream-colored flowing caftan, light makeup on her glowing skin, and her wedding ring resting gently on the hand that held a slim file. Her hair was packed in a neat bun, and her steps were slow but firm, the kind of firm that only women who had fought private battles and won could command. The entire lobby paused. Even the elevator lights seemed to slow. Staff members greeted her with a nervous, "Welcome, Ma." Some bowed. Some smiled awkwardly. She nodded at everyone, but said very little. By 10:20 a.m., she had entered the executive boardroom and summoned 3 people. HR Director Legal Officer Chisholm's heart was already pounding before she got the email. Please report to Boardroom A immediately. Bring nothing. Just yourself. She swallowed hard, wiped her palms, and stood. Don't forget what you've learned, she whispered to herself. Even if this is the end with honor. When she entered the boardroom, Amara was seated at the head. Sit, she said. Chisholm obeyed. She didn't make eye contact. The HR director cleared her throat. We're here to address an internal security breach involving unauthorized restructuring proposals and executive manipulation. A staff member has provided a signed document and a formal confession. The legal officer opened the file. Amara raised a hand gently. There's no need for a long process, she said. She turned to Chisholm. Did you sign it? Chisholm nodded slowly. Yes. Did you forward it? No. Why? Because I saw who I was becoming, and I hated it. The room was still. The HR director stared at her. The legal officer nodded, as though already expecting the answer. Then Amara asked, Where is Desmond? The door opened. 2 security men stepped aside, and Desmond was brought in. Stiff, proud, defiant. He stood before the table like a man who still believed the war wasn't over. I don't know what you've been told, but... You're fired, Amara said, softly. Silence. Desmond's mouth dropped. What? You're being investigated. HR will hand you your termination file. You can leave now. Security stepped forward. He turned to Chisholm. You little... Don't, Amara said sharply for the first time, raising her voice. He stopped and left, like dust, like noise, like nothing. That afternoon, Amara did something she had never done before. She called an all-staff general meeting. Everyone came, from accounting to admin, junior to senior staff, the cafeteria lady to the IT guys. The entire company gathered in the central lounge. At exactly 1 p.m., Amara stepped onto the makeshift platform in the center. She held no microphone. She didn't need one. She simply raised a hand, and the room fell silent. I want to talk to you all about something that happens in every workplace, but few people talk about, she said. Her voice was calm, measured. Temptation, pressure, the desire to climb, even if it means climbing on someone else's back. Murmurs. Then stillness. She continued. I chose someone to act on my behalf while I was away, not because she was perfect, but because she was real. A woman I met in a moment of madness, a moment where her worst self showed. And yet, I saw something else in her. She turned and looked at Chisholm, who stood to the side, head bowed. I chose her, and I was right to. The crowd gasped softly. She smiled. She was tempted, heavily. She even signed, but she didn't execute. She walked away, and she came clean. Silence, and then clapping. One person started, then another, then the entire office. Amara raised her hand again. I want you all to know something. We're not hiring perfect people. We're building people who want to become better. Chisholm Nwankwo is no longer acting head. She is now the official head of Internal Project Management Thunder. Cheering. Chisholm burst into tears and covered her face. It was done. That evening, the office was calm. Chisholm stood by the large window of her new office overlooking the Lagos skyline. A knock. She turned. It was Amara, carrying her baby. I brought a visitor, she said with a warm smile. Chisholm chuckled tearfully. He's beautiful, Ma. Amara looked at her for a long moment, then said, The same child you thought I didn't have is now the reason you have a future. Chisholm covered her mouth, tears falling again. Amara held her gently. No one is beyond redemption, she whispered. No one. As the sun set outside, the camera slowly zooms out, fading to black. Moral of the story. You never know who's watching you when you think no one matters. You never know how your smallest action can shape your biggest opportunity. In life, you may be tested again and again, not to break you, but to reveal who you are when no one is clapping. Power is not in position. Power is in character. You've just watched another soul-stirring folktale on African Tales by Imade, where ordinary people face extraordinary choices. If this story touched you, taught you, or surprised you, leave a comment. Share it with someone you care about, and make sure you're subscribed for more powerful tales that hit home. Thank you for watching. Until next time, be kind, be humble, and never underestimate who someone might become.